Welcome to this podcast. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about how to start a podcast. I'm going to learn doing this thing with you coming along for the ride. I'm going to be doing a lot of research. I'm going to be doing a lot of learning, probably going to be messing up here and there, and you're going to get to experience all of it. And hopefully, you won't have to go through all that stuff yourself. That's the main goal. So, I'm really looking forward to this endeavor because I have been a podcast listener for a while now. I really love listening to podcasts when I'm, out and about walking or doing sports or, commuting to work on the bus, etc. Anywhere I am, I like to listen to podcasts because, you always have your cell phone with you and some sort of headphones so you can just plop down anywhere and just keep listening to your favorite people talk about stuff that's interesting to you. It is a very interesting venue to be in. So today, I'm going to be talking about some basics. I'm going to begin talking about how to make your own podcast in a few steps. So this is stuff that I came up with through research, and it's stuff that I'm going through one by one so that I know that they actually work and they actually give you value. So here we go. Now, the first step might seem like a no-brainer, but it is just getting a good microphone. Now, you can start with your iPhone or your headphones, your Android phone, whatever. You might have like a gaming headset at home that you can use for that. That's fine too. But I do recommend getting a more specialized microphone. I'm using the Blue Yeti right now, which came highly recommended from a lot of podcasters that I really like. So I just bought it thinking that I'm going to be doing this for the long haul, so why not invest in something? It's not very expensive. It's not like a extremely professional grade, radio broadcasting level microphone. It's more of an entry level podcasting microphone. I wouldn't call it a podcasting microphone. It is a microphone that is good for podcasting and a lot more things. So I'll put the link to their website in the show notes so you can check it out. But there are also a lot of different options out there that you could look at. Well, I haven't done much research at this point into alternatives. I know there are quite a few that come highly recommended too. And by the way, I learned that there are two types of microphones that we can use for this stuff. Now, the one that I'm using, the Blue Yeti, falls into the category of condenser microphones. Now, condenser microphones are nice, but they pick up a lot of background noise, so you need to be very particular about where you set it up, what angle you're speaking into it, and you basically need to be in a very isolated and quiet setting. Whereas the second category of microphones, which are called dynamic microphones, don't really suffer from this problem. Now, I haven't used a dynamic microphone yet, and I'll be happy to share my findings with you as I get to use it. So, the first step, I do recommend getting a microphone, but you don't have to. There are a lot of people who do successful podcasts without one. So, it's a personal preference. And then the second step is also a no-brainer. Just record. Just start recording something. Start talking about something that's interesting to you. Find a quiet space without much background noise if possible, where you can record your podcast. There's a lot of software out there that can help you with removing background noise or unwanted sounds and things like that. So, using those, you can get rid of a lot of stuff. But if you have a good setup from the beginning, the process of editing, which we're going to talk about in a bit, is going to be much easier for you because it is a very time-consuming process. You want to keep it as short as possible so that you can keep recording more and more stuff in less time. The third step, after recording, we're not done, so we need to do editing. So this is the part where you polish your audio and you make necessary edits and cuts to get rid of errors and annoying sounds like breathing and swallowing and stuff like that. So you definitely want to get rid of those. And you can also put in breaks and advertisements and on this stage. I mean, chances are in the beginning you're not going to have too many downloads and listens, so getting advertisers on your show is not going to be very easy. But as you go along, this becomes a possibility. Now, if you don't know or have no idea about editing software and you think it's very time consuming and difficult to learn, I'm here to tell you it's not very difficult. There's a lot of free software that we'll talk about in later episodes that you can use, but I can mention a couple top of my head. Like there's Audacity, that is completely free, lets you edit audio. It has a lot of filters and effects and things like that you can use to enhance or clean up your audio. And then if you're a Mac user, you can use GarageBand in the beginning. And there's a lot more. There's Reaper, which is really a digital audio workstation, which is really geared towards music production, but still could use it for podcasts. And there's a lot more. So yeah, it is a very good time to be in podcasting. And then also a shameless plug here. My own service, Buttercast, which this podcast is named after, is a service that's actually aiming to make editing and enhancing audio a little easier on people. And we've created a platform for podcasting where you can just upload your episodes, your audio files directly, and it does a lot of crazy technological things in the background, and then your audio magically sounds a little better. So it's not meant to completely replace your editing process, but it is meant to at least lessen your load. And, we're going to be improving this product. Obviously, we just launched it a week ago, so it's in its very early stages, but still, it can help you out. Enough of the shameless plug. So the next step, you've finished editing. You're happy with how your audio sounds. You're ready to share your work with the world, right? So your next step is going to be uploading to a media host. You need a platform to host it. So I'm not going to do another shameless plug and mention our own service. You already know about that. That's one place you can do this. Or you can also set up a WordPress site and you can use free plugins, or there's some paid plugins that you can use. And there's a lot of hosting companies out there that just do one-click WordPress installations. If you're not familiar with what WordPress is, it's basically a blogging software that you can set up on a server, and you can just start your own blog, and you can also use it to create a full website that can do a lot of stuff like e-commerce, selling stuff online. Or you can make it into a portfolio site. You can make it into a social media with these small pieces of software that you can plug in. And they're called plugins for obvious reasons. So another plugin for WordPress is called PowerPress. You just plug it in there and suddenly your WordPress site becomes a podcasting platform. So, and there's a lot of options like that. If you are willing to set up your own website and put WordPress on it, there's a lot of hosts that can do this for you. DreamHost, Bluehost, Site5. Been using those guys for over 7 years, I think. And quite a few others. If you need recommendations, do reach out to me on Twitter or whichever social media channel you prefer. Be happy to point you in the right direction. Another option could be more different services. The biggest name in the podcasting world that definitely deserves honorary mention is called Libsyn. They basically host, I think, well, I don't really have the numbers, but I think it's safe to say a majority of the podcasts in the world are hosted on Libsyn. They got started in 2001. That was when podcasting was in its infancy stages, so talk about vision. So anyway, they've been at this for 16 years. So we have tough competition, but they're definitely a good option. And there's quite a few podcasting services as well. I mean, you could just put in podcasting service or podcast host into Google, and you're going to come up with a lot of different options. Some of them are completely free, but they can plug in advertisements and stuff like that into your audio. So depending on what you want to do, maybe you can start out that way. So anyway, the next step in getting your podcast started is you have to distribute it to some channels that we call directories. And the channels are many, but you only need to focus on three in the beginning. And my research shows me that the biggest one is, no surprise, it's iTunes. So Apple started the whole podcasting revolution a long time ago, and it has been very popular since then on iTunes. So you definitely want your podcast listed on iTunes. And then there's Google Play, obviously, another giant that has a lot of podcasts on, and basically you're going to be tapping into a lot of Android devices that way, whereas iTunes is going to get you all the iOS and Apple devices. And then there's also a directory called Stitcher, which is definitely the third one you should focus on, and you should get your podcast in all three of these directories. And then also, I see a lot of podcasters that I admire put their episodes onto YouTube and SoundCloud as well. So those two are definitely worthwhile as well. Imagine the audience on YouTube. It's just the biggest audience in the world, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that. There's also a lot of search engine optimization opportunities to be gotten from being on YouTube. You have a very high likelihood of showing up high in search results if you're on YouTube in any form. So that brings us to step number 6, and that is the final step. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Obviously, after all these steps, you can do a lot of marketing and promotions and things like that. But this is probably the most important step because it is a never-ending step. It is consistently producing podcast episodes. So please hold me accountable to doing this as well. Like if you see me slacking off after a few weeks, tell me, bug me. I'd definitely be happy for the kick and I would continue. I'm on a Facebook group called Podcast Growth Mastermind. Join that group. Has a lot of good people in it. They're willing to help. They welcomed me with open arms, even though I had absolutely no podcasting experience under my belt. And I still don't, except for this episode that I'm about to finish. I'm one step in. So these guys are pretty helpful, and you should look at other groups and places like Reddit that might have a lot of podcasters, and then keep talking about your podcast. But never ever stop producing more podcast episodes. Just keep recording. It can feel like crap to you when you finish something. Just keep recording. Do free recording. I've been doing a lot of writing over the last few years. I've landed on places like Forbes and Huffington Post. I have a lot of stuff on Medium. I have a lot of stuff on our Buttercast blog and a lot of stuff on our main company's blog, which is called Edition Guard. And I just write every day. I don't think about what it's going to be. I just sit down at my computer every morning for half an hour. You don't have to go on hours and hours. Just sit down at your computer and write. That's what I was doing. And with the podcasting stuff, people tell me the same. All the experts who've been doing this for a long time, they tell me the same thing. Just sit down and start talking. Do it consistently. Do it every day, and you'll get better and better at it. So that is what I intend to do, and I think you should too. So that brings us to the end of our first episode. That wasn't so hard. It wasn't as hard as I thought. And you know what? I'm started in the podcasting world now. This is very exciting to me. I'm going to put this into Buttercast under my first show, and hopefully I'll get some cover art and things like that are required for the podcast ready in a few days or so, and then publish this so that you guys can listen to it. This is very exciting, and this is all it takes to get started. I just got started with podcasting, with you listening, so you have experienced just how easy and quickly you can get started with this stuff. So I urge you, do the same thing. This is the golden age for this media. Don't miss out. All right. So I think we can call this a wrap. And I'll be happy to see you again on our next episode. If you like this, please subscribe. I need subscribers because I only have 0 subscribers right now. So please subscribe as soon as you can, and I'll be very happy.